If I was a betting man, I'd wager that a Nintendo Direct is coming later this week, next week at the very latest. As the big summer Direct tends to, it will likely give us a look at the first-party titles slated to arrive in the second half of 2023. We might even get our first look at Nintendo's big holiday title. June is formerly the month of E3 showcases, and is still a big month for video game news in general. Yet Nintendo has been fairly quiet. That only means one thing: something is brewing. Take this for example. A non-Nintendo game I'm paying attention to is Persona 3 Reload. Based on developer Atlus's track record, you gotta think this one is coming to Switch. At least I hope it is. But as of now, it's announced for every system except the Switch. Because of this, you have to imagine the announcement is being saved for when the maximum amount of eyes will be on it. Obviously that's during a Nintendo Direct. Not for nothing, but we had a similar situation with the modern releases of Persona 3, 4, and 5 last year, when the Switch release was confirmed during a Nintendo Direct mini-partner showcase at the end of June. But we're not here today to talk about whether or not there will be a Direct. Instead, what I want to talk about is the fact that even with the Direct yet to be announced, Nintendo still has a very exciting back half of the year lined up for us, even if their own website calendar seems to suggest otherwise. In fact, we don't even need to stray away from first-party releases. Think back to our last Nintendo Direct in February. Here we saw a brief teaser for Splatoon 3's single-player story DLC, Side Order. And I already know what you're thinking. Side Order doesn't have a release date yet. All we know is that it's set to arrive before the end of 2024. But let's think about this for a second. Splatoon 2's story DLC, the Octo expansion, came just about a year after the release of the base game. Unless Side Order is going to have a massively increased scope, I think it's pretty safe to assume a very similar development timeline, meaning the DLC will almost certainly hit this year. Especially since base Splatoon 3 was supposed to be a summer game until its delay into September of 2022. If you think about it this way, I really don't expect to see Side Order fall into 2024. And I think it's pretty much a lock for the next Nintendo Direct, where we'll see a new trailer and a release date that's sooner than many were expecting. Staying on the topic of DLCs, we can't forget about Part 1 of the hidden treasure of Area Zero for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, the Teal Mask. This one is confirmed for the fall, and Part 2, the Indigo Disc, is set for a winter release. So, barring any delays, the entire DLC for Scarlet and Violet is also set to arrive before this year's over. It doesn't really even need to be said how exciting that is, but there are definitely questions surrounding its scope and scale. Will this be an expansion similar to the meaty one we got with Sword and Shield? For one thing, the Scarlet and Violet expansion is being sold at a higher price than the Sword and Shield one, which could be a good sign toward this being two very substantial waves of content. Typically, when Nintendo decides to charge a higher price for something, it's because they really think it's worth it. No kidding. So that could very well be the case here. Only time will tell. But no matter how the DLC shakes out, there's no question these updates will occupy a lot of Nintendo Switch players' time for the remainder of 2023. And of course, it's getting about that time when Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is set to bless us yet again with another wave of the Booster Course Pass. But if we're looking at the year as a whole, it's not just Wave 5 of the BCP we should be expecting. It's the entirety of it. Remember, the whole thing is supposedly wrapping up by the end of this year. This means that all remaining DLC courses and characters set to be added to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe will be here before the year's end. That's at least 16 new tracks and 5 new characters, which is honestly pretty ridiculous and extremely exciting. This will all amount to at least another 2 waves of updates, not counting any bonuses, extensions, or extra goodies in the final wave. And it's going to remain a busy year for Mario, because just last week at Ubisoft's Forward event, we were shown a teaser for the next 2 waves of DLC for Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. Amazingly, both are also set to arrive before the end of 2023. After 100%ing the game last year, I've been itching for a new planet to explore, and that's exactly what Wave 2 looks to be giving us. And then of course, there's what looks like the main event, the final DLC featuring Rayman coming shortly after. This is such a big deal, but insanely enough, with so much other great DLC coming, I almost forgot about this one when putting together this video. I had this realization a while back. I actually wrote a whole post about this in my weekly newsletter not too long ago. But 2023 might be the best year ever when it comes to DLC. Even outside the realm of first-party Nintendo IP, there's still a lot to look forward to, including things that could surprise drop as this year comes to a close. Look, I realize I've mainly talked about DLC updates here rather than new games, but there's a good reason for that. You kinda have to stop and appreciate just how ridiculously good the upcoming DLC lineup is. Maybe the deluge of DLC does point toward a lighter back half of the year for Nintendo, but I don't think so. And before we undoubtedly learn about the rest of Nintendo's new releases in a Direct, it's fun to speculate about how exactly it'll turn out. One of the final Wii U ports? Are we finally gonna see that DK game? A new Mario game? Or Metroid Prime 4 as the holiday title? Or maybe they're just going to drop a blowout on their new console at Nintendo Live in September. But before we drift too far into hypotheticals, let's appreciate what we already have. I'm absolutely loving Tears of the Kingdom, over the moon for Pikmin 4, and ready to get full-on hyped for a Nintendo Direct soon. This might not only be the best year ever for DLC, it might be the best year ever for games in general. It's truly a great time to be a Nintendo fan, and I'm just happy to be here along for the ride. And of course, grateful for everyone here watching who's ready to enjoy it with me. I'll see you in the next video, and fingers crossed for a Direct announcement soon.